Well, welcome back. Here we are to the fourth of the four videos that were produced by the Small Town Productions for the uh, Civil War Statue Committee. And this video features David Seagraves, the artist, the sculptor who designed and made the Civil War soldier statue. And he's being interviewed by Natalie Morris. You'll remember Natalie from my interview in the first video. Just wanted to mention that we are 12 years down the road now after doing the dedication and getting all that Civil War statue monument put back together again. And during that time, we've lost 4 of our 12 members of the committee. Of course, Sonny died. Sonny Sullivan died during the process. Joe Menchel, who you'll remember from the speeches, passed away. John Sutton was one of the historians. He also was part of the color guard for the Veterans Group. You saw him playing the trumpet or cornet for the taps. And Eleanor Gunderman passed away, and she was part of the subcommittee that took care of the refreshments and dedication inside the courthouse. I hope you enjoy David's thoughts as he designed and produced the statue.
Today is Monday, April 4th, 2011. We just saw the new replacement statue go up on the Civil War era replacement statue go up on the north west corner of the courthouse grounds. And I am now here in Action Rental with the artist, the sculptor, David Seagraves. Welcome, and thank you for squeezing us in today.
Oh, you're welcome also.
Can you start by spelling your name for us so we have it down correct?
D-A-V-I-D.
Now the trickier part.
S-E-A-G-R-A-V-E-S.
Thank you. Now, how did you first get contacted about this project to get started on our Civil War statue?
I received a phone call from Sonny Sullivan, who was an early mover of this project, and I had lunch with him one day on my way to St. Louis to visit my mother at Hallie's, I think is the name.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a February day, I believe, kind of a cold day.
Kind of feeling like it is today a little bit.
Yeah, worse today, I think. But the sun was out that day, and the statue hadn't fallen off the pedestal yet then, but it was in pretty bad shape. And he was wondering if it could be repaired, and I told him it was too far gone, you know.
Because you had done some repair work on the Indian Maiden on the square as well, correct?
True, yeah, that was in 2001, I think. There was an anniversary, like a 100th anniversary maybe.
And so you'd had some history working with some of the local artifacts already.
Right, I did.
Okay.
So people knew about me, and that's no doubt how Sonny knew about me.
And after that lunch with Sonny, decided that repair work wasn't going to be possible. Had you already moved into phase 2 of replacement then, or?
Well, we discussed it, and I think he was ready for that possibility, too. And later on, we corresponded, and I gave him some prices on replacement.
Now, can you explain to me a little bit the process of the cast work that you've done here to get our gentleman up there looking as good as he is today?
Well, the casting is done by a foundry in Mount Morris, in Bronze Foundry. Mm-hmm. And my part is to prepare the clay work, the prototype, which is a duplicate of that. And they make a mold from what I've done, and they do the casting.
And we saw some of the casts out there today when you were unloading, correct? The molds were there?
Yeah, they were the molds. They were rubber molds taken directly from my clay work. Okay. And they were in sections. And they had a backing to give them stability.
Okay.
Because they're rubber. They're flexible so they can go in and out of all the crevices. They bend. when they're rubber, but then they need the backing of the glass.
Certainly, so you don't get too much movement.
Yeah, that's a new lost wax shell casting is what they call the new process.
Okay.
And they use those molds to make wax pieces that are duplicates of what I've done, but they're only a 1/4 inch thick. And then those are dipped in the mold material, sort of a cement and sand. They dip them like over 10 times, I think, the wax pieces, and then they use those to make the bronze casts.
The multiple dippings, does that just give it more detail or more structure?
Well, the wax pieces have all the detail, but the dipping is the actual frame or the cavity that the bronze is poured in. They melt the wax out of the cement,
Okay.
and then they pour the bronze in.
Okay.
Where the wax used to be.
That makes sense. Now,
They had the pouring tube and all that out of wax.
now, obviously, the original had already decayed to a point you couldn't use it when you went about deciding what this statue was going to look like. How did you come up with this image?
I had some old photos. I guess they were in the book about this statue.
Mr. Gleason's book, possibly.
Yeah, and the whole courthouse, all the names, the veterans and so forth. Yeah, and the statue was the main feature of that, and the old photos, they weren't great photos, but I could tell more or less how it looked. The photos, there were photos of the existing stone, but they were pretty deteriorated.
Not a whole lot to work with.
No, I just knew it had to fit on a certain size footprint,
Correct.
which is smallish.
I would imagine that's a challenge when a previous structure is defining what you're going to be starting your new one with.
Yeah, it's a limitation. So the challenge is to do something that's still in that limitation, and it gives you a little bit of freedom because so much of it was missing.
So you could reimagine it.
Yeah.
Have you done a lot of other Civil War work that you were drawing some from your knowledge with that, or did you have a lot of research that you had to do to come up with this?
Well, I did a big project for the state of Illinois in Springfield for the Camp Lincoln, sort of history of the armories of Illinois. And there's a big assembled piece there, by the way, at the museum in Camp Lincoln. So I had to do a lot of Civil War research for that, plus all the other campaigns, that they were involved in, plus, sandbagging time things too. So I know a lot about the National Guard.
Sure.
And in the Civil War, it was all fought pretty much by the National Guard. They didn't have a professional army. So yeah, that was my background.
So you already came in with some working knowledge there.
Yes,
What were the particular challenges with this art piece?
The challenges. Well, I wanted it to look good as seen from below, so I put it up on elevated sawhorses so I could get underneath it and look at it from.
So you were getting the right angle.
Yeah, and I wanted to have the right equipment, the right rifle, which they have. I use the one that they have in their basement.
Okay.
It's not on display, but they've had it there since the Civil War. And so technical things like that were kind of a challenge.
Sure. Making sure you got it just right to the era.
Yeah. And wanted the whiskers right, I settled on a mustache. So for those things, since the original is, deteriorated, you have to look at photos of what people had, what kind of whiskers.
Sure.
Hairstyles, cap styles. The caps vary a little bit. And this sort of follows the original. But they have big sideburns sometimes, and I decided that the original didn't have that. Just a big mustache.
We all wear it differently, don't we?
Yeah. General Logan has the outstanding classic
Well, yes, he
mustache.
does.
Yeah. So this one's maybe a little smaller, but still it's.
He must rank lower. You can't have as big of mustache and sideburns lower
Yeah, the
ranking.
4-star general needs the biggest one.
Yep. Status symbol. What kind of time frame did it take from start to finish?
Oh, it seemed like a few years. Well, the first phase was talking to Sonny, and I think things didn't go too far for over a year, and then the old one fell off during a windstorm.
2008, I believe.
Yeah, and then that was a call to action, I think, when it was gone. You know, so then I guess the committee, I don't know if it had formed yet or not, but that's when they started to get really serious. And I came down for a meeting, maybe in that year even, 2008. I remember it was summertime. And since that meeting, it's been, a year and a half.
What about the actual process of when you started making the molds?
That was, well, the first thing I did was make a model, a small model, and I brought for approval in November. So once that was approved, then I could start on the big one.
Where's the model now?
It's somewhere in the courthouse. I brought it today and disappeared. Someone carried it off.
All right, so it has a home here in Logan County somewhere.
Yeah, I hope it wasn't just somebody that took it home. Should be in there somewhere.
Okay. We'll track that down then. So the small model, and then after the small model, you had the green light to move ahead with the actual version.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And they pay you a little money at first, too, you know.
To get things going, right. As far as when it goes to scale, you didn't have the original one to be working with. How do you make sure you get the scales right, even like you were saying, since it's on an elevated position, but also just the body proportions?
I think we figured it was a 6-foot person from some of the fragments. And I think they sort of assured me that that was about right.
Okay. So is it using a little of the memory of what the original was on the heights and the proportions?
Yeah, I wouldn't want it any bigger. Usually you make something and it goes outside and it always looks smaller than it is, you know, somehow. But in this case, I think it's,
He holds his own well.
yeah, it's nice and big.
Anything in the process of doing this particular piece? I know when you're working with a project, there are different things you get invested in when you're in the middle of it. You might not have anticipated when you started. Was there something with this one that, any particular ways he spoke to you?
Well, in a way, I guess, yeah, working on the face and some of the body gestures, you know, the pose, it's sort of I don't want to say suffering, but I certainly was aware of like the hardships that would take soldiering, you know, in those days. And what do they call that? The 1,000-yard stare or something, you know, soldiers get, you know, maybe a little of that.
Okay.
You know, not smiling especially, or anything
No.
like that. It's kind of stoic.
Yes.
Stoic.
He's been through some experiences, you can tell
Yeah.
from his face.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to show, I guess.
How hard is it when you finally get your babies done to turn them over?
Well, I always hate to give things up. Yeah, I always want to work on them more.
Uh-huh.
And but it is, you do have to get rid of them eventually. And, so it's nice when they're out in the public view, you know, because then I can go back and see them, visit them.
Tell me about how you got into this line of work. I know you'd already told me that you work in multiple mediums, not just in the bronze, but also in the stonework and in wood. How'd you get this career line? How did it come about?
Well, I studied art in college, like a bachelor's and master's, you know, big degree, and it was mainly in painting, though, and two-dimensional things. And then after school, I didn't go into teaching or anything like that. I went into building and cabinet making, and I started wood carving as part of that. So I got into the sculptural end of things, three-dimensional end of woodworking, and from there I sort of went into clay modeling and carving stone.
Was it just your interest that took you in those venues, or were there some job commissions that came along that drew you along that path?
I guess some commissions helped. Yeah, it's always good when someone wants you to do something. And
Pays you for your passion.
I'll pay you to do. I said, okay. I've always been one to take on jobs whether or not I could really do them, you know. I always had fool's confidence that I would.
Part of the challenge.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not the European system where you're trained to do every little thing. And,
I don't think we have a very strong apprentice system over here in the arts fields.
no, it's kind of catch as catch can, you know.
How long have you been doing statuary?
I think my first one was for a church was about 1980. So what is that, 21 years? Or 31, I mean.
There we go, yes. And then are most of the jobs that come your way, like our Civil War statue, in the public arena, or is it more churches or individuals?
It seemed like for the public arena, like I did one last year of a man from Rockford who raised the money for fireworks for 50 years, an Italian guy. And that was fun for the Park District. So I put some rockets on him, you know, things like that. The old-time bottle rock, big rockets. And that's downtown, outside, in a little park. So yeah, those kind of things I've been doing a lot of. And for schools and through the state of Illinois, the Percent for Art program, I've done a lot of things.
Can you tell us some of the notable projects, so we know some of the sister projects to our Civil War statue?
Well, in Oregon, Illinois, I have a piece called Demeter, which is a woman planting a field. That's outside the courthouse. That's one of my favorites. They have a competition there every year to do a public piece.
Okay.
And the Foundry sponsors that, the In-Bronze Foundry. So, yeah, I like her a lot. And I did a church piece there, Holy Family, for the St. Mary's Church. It's good. It's 9 feet high. It's big.
It's working on an entirely different scale.
Yeah, I like that. That one's like over 20 years old.
Okay.
And then in Rockford, I guess the Joe Marino statue, the one I mentioned, the fireworks guy, that's downtown. I like that one.
Definitely got a chance to lose some creativity there, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, I had to take that from scratch, and nobody had any concept of what it should be, and so I could be pretty creative. And they came up with the idea in March, and they wanted it done by the 4th of July.
No pressure whatsoever, right? Creativity under pressure.
Yeah, you have no choice.
Volatile there.
You can't escape, hide or anything. You have to come up with something.
What have I not thought to ask that we should have covered that gives us some perspective of this project and your work at large?
Well, it's this project kind of illustrates it pretty well, and the idea of public art. I think it's neat to do public commissions, to have something that is out and interacting with people. A modern piece can do that too. I'm not totally against modern art. I think there's a lot of bad art done these days, and I like the idea of having something that people can relate to.
Why is your passion in that public art, the visibility of it? Why do you think the importance that brings to a community?
Well, for me, I like the idea of a lot of people seeing it. It's like in the courthouse, it's prominent, and it's, I don't know, it speaks to the values of the society, Like in this case, self-sacrifice, I guess.
And in the Indian Maiden, what do you think that speaks towards?
Oh, the one I repaired, that's, I don't know, like sort of a neat lifestyle, the simple lifestyle.
Also the history of most of Illinois.
Yeah.
This community.
Yeah, what was here originally, and something we should look at and not try to erase, which they used to do. So that was a good idea they had in 1901 or whenever it was.
To recognize that history.
Yeah.
Anything I've missed?
Well, probably we've missed things, but I don't know.
That's why I always, it's one of my catch-all questions, to make sure there isn't anything.
Boy, I'll think of it tomorrow.
Two brains. If neither of us could think of it today, maybe it's not that big of a priority, right? Well, thank you very much for your time today. He's gorgeous. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
bringing him back to life for us.
Yeah, I'm happy with the result. Because, yeah, you know, I've seen it, the statue in a lot of places. And this is my favorite place I've seen it.
Because it's where he belongs. It's what he was made for, right?
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you ever so much. I appreciate Mr. Seagraves.
Okay.